All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. Today we've got my Pro Customs MJ43 chassis, and then that thing is sitting on top of Capra axles. It's a rear steer buggy, but it's got some really cool tricks. So it's got a Vanquish VFD twin transmission. That's what came out of the Phoenix from Vanquish, which allows you to shift into a dig, which the factory VFD twin lets you do a front wheel drive dig, and then it had a second option that let you change your overdrive. Now, this truck has a modified part in the transmission from Colorado Adventure Club. I will be sure to link to them down below. It replaces the overdrive shifting mechanism with another dig unit. So now I can do a locked front wheel and rear wheel drive only, as well as locked rear wheels and front wheel drive only. So now this thing's like a real buggy. This is how my real car works. I've got front and rear dig, front and rear burn. Doesn't really matter what terminology you use. But super excited. I've wanted that combination of, tools in the bag for a long time in an RC car, and it's finally available. And the Colorado Adventure Club part is a machined aluminum piece. It's really strong. I have no doubts that that thing will have any issues in the future. Looking forward to playing with this thing. Not only that, this is one of the most scale buggies I've ever owned. The Pro chassis come with an awesome 3D printed interior that looks so real to the actual interiors of the buggies. It's super cool. So I'm super excited to get this thing out here on the rocks. Let's go check it out and see what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into. Oh yeah, I just equipped this thing with some 2.2 Battleborn wheels from Vanquish, as well as all scale hardware from Vanquish. Let's take a look at this interior, like I say. Now, you can replace this big passenger box area with another seat, but I'm putting my battery under here, so to actually run the truck, it makes a lot more sense to have it there. And then on the outside of the car, I'm running a passenger door panel. The car comes with full aluminum panels. Say hello to our friend Sydney out here joining us today. I really wish that I could run the full interior, so both seats with the door bars, because that's how I run my actual car. But it just doesn't quite work out that way, so I just run the door bars out there, and hopefully we're gonna get those into some rocks and do some real buggy stuff. So then the motor in this truck is a Hobbywing Fusion Pro 2300 kV. It's running on 3S because that is the maximum amount of battery you can put in this thing. You're not allowed to run 4S with it. It can fry your electronics, so don't try that. Here we go, floating our front end a little bit. The shocks on this rig are from Pricey's Customs Crawlers. They look the best for the scale buggies. I love the way they look. They look like an air shock essentially. And then they come set up with a dual spring setup, so it's got, a spring that holds the nose down, plus a spring to support the weight of the vehicle. But I've removed all the springs except for the up travel springs in the rear. So it's got just a little bit of compression in the rear, so if I bump into a wall and I need some wheel speed into something, it will work. But the fronts are just shocks. They don't have any springs in them. Now this car is heavy with the aluminum axles. Oh, come on, come on. And then the VFD twin, which is no lightweight. The shifting mechanisms, man, that was so close. Wow, that worked really, really good. I usually struggle on this line a lot. It's very difficult with drag axle, but man, this car just made that look good. So let's see if we can't get our rears up now. Beautiful, just absolutely crawled that. That worked really, really well. So this thing is not a hardline killer, but it does perform pretty well. It's a great technical terrain car. Now, when I assembled this car, Colorado Adventure Club, I purchased one dig unit for it, and I originally had it set to where it was going to give me all the overdrive from the transmission. And then he actually sent two out for me to test them out. And so I actually ended up installing the 6% overdrive from the transmission because my portal gears already had like 30%, 33%. So this car has a lot of overdrive in it. It's somewhere around the 38 to 40% range. And so it's a little much for a scale buggy. You can really see that overdrive working, but there's times where it just works really good. So as the name implies, these chassis are made out of titanium, and I believe it's a solid titanium rod. I'm pretty sure about that. But overall, it's going to give you more strength than steel. And it's going to be lighter weight than if it were the same material in steel. Love it. Super steep, very scale looking. Yeah. This just looks like a real car out here working on the rocks. And I love the way this thing just crawls stuff. So we got Vanquish aluminum axles front and rear with the offset differentials. The links that come with this truck are actually for the Vanquish F10 axles, and I just tweaked a couple rod ends to make it work with the Vanquish Capra axles. The link geometry between the F10 and the Capra is actually very similar. Sorry guys, I'll go a little quicker here. I just love watching these things work like that. And what's funny is this thing's working so good that I haven't even needed to use front or rear only yet to kind of reposition myself. It has been sticking to these rocks so well. So I'm very curious how it's going to navigate this. We may try and use some front only here to lock up the rear brakes to help it slide down controlled. But we may just run it in four-wheel drive to start, because I actually might want my rear tires rotating as it comes down here. Because it's going to get into its belly, and then we're going to go down a big drop. So it's about to hit its skid plate. Okay. Let's settle it down. There it is. Let's keep it on the tires and not the diff. Woo, baby. There we go. Very cool. Ah, man, I tried to stop it. Had a little bit of momentum going. So this is the trail I call Sidewinder. Okay, so let's grab front dig. So we're actually going to continue the front dig to get us up onto the wall over here. Someone has stacked a rock down in there, but it's not necessary. I probably won't even end up touching it. So back to four-wheel drive. It might tip over on us again. Yikes. So let's grab rear only. Yeah, it's gonna try and tip us over. So there we go, spinning the rear tires only. I guess my end point isn't set quite where it needs to be. This thing's really close to tipping over right now. Lots of overdrive's gonna pull us through. What are we doing here, truck? Not ideal, need to adjust the end point or something. All right, so let's try this again. I actually didn't really find anything that was wrong with it per se. So the price, these shocks, like I said, come with negative springs and then positive springs. Negative meaning it tries to hold the shock closed. I don't have any negative springs installed in this right now. So there's times where I get a ton of chassis roll where the truck's like trying to roll over. It just has crazy amounts of weight in the chassis, so it'll body roll and then like just stay all sideways and weird. Little front dig action. So I need to put some kind of negative spring in here. Just the springs that were originally in here were a little much. And it was limiting my travel, so I wasn't real stoked on them. It's pretty much right where I want it to be. If I can get these fronts to stick. Still a little too sideways in the front. Could be a good hook, right? Oh, come on. Maybe let's try a dig to get our hook before we start really trying to drive up it. Now we lost it. This car might not like this obstacle. It's pretty off camber. It should do it. It really should. And that's all right. This thing's still fairly new. I still need to tune it and tweak it here and there. Like I say, there's changes I want to make in the suspension. I need some negative springs of some kind. I just want that front right to stay down, man. Do I just send it? Don't let go, front. There we go. Very fine line of what this car wanted right there. Sweet. Again, this thing's just a technical terrain car. It's super fun to just creepy crawl the obstacles like we're doing right here. And it's just so cool to watch work. It looks like a real car. This is a Jesse Haynes two-seat chassis clone. And then you can find MJ43 Racing on Instagram, and that's where this car gets its name. Is that guy had built the Jesse Haynes car, and that was the car they decided to clone. Say hi to everybody, Sydney, over here panting like a dog. Huh? Being good today? She's excited to get out of the house. The weather's finally cooling off. Okay, please stop panting in my face now. You may go now. Get into the belly a little bit. There it is. Fun stuff. So normally I go do some stupid line through here that you have to drop off and get all weird with it. I think we're gonna try and stay a little more realistic with this car today. So we're actually gonna try and find a new way down and around. Could get interesting with the weight of this car, but outside of that, it should be plenty capable to do these things. There we go. Now I do have a couple things at home right now that I'm planning on changing on this car. And I'm actually gonna change the look of it. I'm gonna take that hood off. It is a very high quality 3D printed hood now. I had the original, and then he sent me a replacement, Justin from Typro. And I'm gonna do a flat Lexan hood because all the Jesse Haynes cars that I know of have the flat hood and not fiberglass hood. I think there's really only one Jesse Haynes car I know of with fiberglass hood, and that's MJ Racing. But as part of making a flat Lexan hood for this, the front bumper extends out to hold the nose of that grille. And so just leave it with this like kind of awkward looking front bumper. And so I picked up an RC 4-wheel drive scale worn winch, and I've got a scale winch to put on the nose of it so that it looks even more like the other Jesse Haynes cars that I know about. This crack is not easy, so we're gonna see if this MJ43 can get up through here. It gets pretty steep. Already a little steeper than we need to be. Right rear's helping push the car up. We're just scrubbing that front passenger along. It's basically flush with the wall. Okay, I like where we're headed. And then in a second, I'm actually going to straighten those rears back out. Wow, that was pretty close. Getting the pinch, and then I should be able to turn back into it. Oh man, that's so close. There we go. So, challenge accepted. Let's see if we can get through this one. You gotta get that front tire just scrubbing along. It doesn't want to climb. It does want to climb, but it wants to roll your car if it climbs. And then you start climbing the front end once the rear gets into the pinch. Yeah, this is a really touchy one actually. This is really tricky, because the car kind of wants to do two things at the same time that you can't do at the same time. So let's see if we can recover our front with a dig. Our endpoints are a little off right now. I always set my endpoints conservative so I don't hurt my servos, and which that basically means it's not wanting to lock up right now. Which I've found personally that a freewheel dig is kind of useless. Man, I knew this was tricky. I remember trying this a few times. But this car was really close. There it goes. Come on, rear push. Damn. I guess one more try. The left rear is getting a ton of traction now. It just rotates the car. So, not much I can do there. That's a good one. Maybe more time and just not recording. So the rear servo mount, because the fuel cell and the cage design of this, you cannot run a servo on top of the axle here. So I ended up running a deluxe fab Capra servo mount, which is a behind the axle mount, so that the servo sits down low and out of the way of the cage. And that's how we get around that. I've tried this line a lot of times. I've never come out the top of it through the crack. So excited to see how this goes. The problem is, it's huge consequence. You fall off, it's a 12-foot drop down to solid rock, which is all angled at about 45 degrees downhill. And you can lose your car permanently going off that. As in, it will destroy it. Little front dig right there just to set it up. I'm gonna get up here where I can try and catch the car. And so it's this V-crack over here. And then you just got to try and find some kind of pinch that works to pull the rears through. I can always get the fronts up and into the pinch, I've never been able to find, but I also haven't tried it with anything with dig. My scale hardware is working, I can hear it. It's grabbing onto the rocks. You just work it back and forth like that without driving the rear too far underneath itself to make the car flip. Nowhere for that rear to turn. If I can get that rear to come up a little more, might have something. And then eventually we got to bring that front back to pull up this wall, and it's just not quite the right formation there to pull it. And these crawlers are new, so they need some scrub in time. They're not as good when they're brand new. These are my cut and shut crawlers on the 2.2 Vanquish wheels. SL3D squid inserts on the inside of these. Like I say, these have like 1 to 2 short runs on them, a couple video runs. Come on, car. That's the scariest part right there, is when that front tire lifts towards the cliff. This is how you break in crawlers. You sit there and try a line that doesn't work, spinning your tires, eventually you'll break those edges off. Oh man, like, just yikes. So I think we're gonna take a pass for today. We gave it a shot, and she didn't quite just want to drive right up it. Suppose I should share a garage update as well. This is currently my only scale buggy. I did end up selling my UC fab. The plan was to then replace it with another UC fab, but currently not able to do that. So hopefully in the future we'll get one to replace it, but right now this is my metal scale buggy. I'd owned that UC fab for about a year and a half, almost. And there's pretty much one reason why I would get rid of it, which is why I sold it. And that was to try and make a version of my real car. But just currently unable to do that. Let's try a rear burn. Let's just shove that rear down into the crack. See that? That's what I'm talking about. Now we're way better lined up. That's what I love about this technical crawler here. And then even here, we got a good bite on that front left. Nah, not quite. Might need the push from the four-wheel drive to force that front left up. There it goes. And there it is. Now we're balanced. I don't want to climb that front right too high. Let's try rear only. Okay, car's very mad with this suspension geometry. Yeah. It's not gonna quite go up that. Okay, so we're gonna rear only reverse. Get that rear out of that hole. So now we're not driving down into the hole, we're up on the wall. Again, finding ourselves in a bad spot. That's how it goes in the real ones too. Sometimes you just gotta fight it through. There's a little too much tire stuck there. Let's try and get that front end over. Instead of driving that. Did we get the turn in time? I think we did, just barely. Nice. Okay. I don't know if anything was in frame there, sorry. You see where I'm going. Should be able to turn down into that front wall and pull the car out of it. And there's this nice little road about the width of a car next to the cliff. Just work your way up through there. And there she goes. Fun stuff. Now we got another nasty transition. All right guys, we're gonna try a reverse entry here. Now the only downside to doing reverse entries with cars like this is the crazy overdrive really makes the car act weird. The front axle is outrunning the rear axle, and so it essentially tries to stand all the suspension up. That's what it wants to do. So we're gonna try and avoid that there. Rear only. Let those fronts lock. Should be able to just ease our way down. Yep. Back into four wheel. And then she should just set down nice and easy. All right. Whew. That's about as far as I dare go. As it can roll right here, it'll just land on the rock. Or gotta be careful with the controls here. Whole car leaned over down in that crack and able to recover it out of there. So this thing is definitely just lacking in the side hill department. That's really its weakness, just because the top heavy aspect of it, but it's a big metal car. That's you'll get that. It makes it unique to drive. It's fun. Okay. Come on, get some. Got a good hook right here if I can get it timed right. turn down into this crack and pull that rear up. If the car will twist enough, it should do it. Oh, come on, come on. It's right there. Come on. Get up there. Uh-oh, it's gonna spit us out. Actually, that was working. Where there's a bind, there's traction. Come on, crawlers. Left rear's got it all right here. Damn, almost, man. All right, guys, we're gonna go zip through Mousetrap and end out this video. Here we are at Tyson's entrance, the crack of that portion. Let's not go too fast. Let's just sit back and enjoy it, I guess. Very minimal steering adjustments through cracks. I don't know if you guys can tell. Like, you don't want to get in here and try and turn like that to correct it. It will really throw you off course quick. So a lot of the newbies, that's my #1 suggestion for you if you're running a long V crack like this. It's just small steering corrections. Doesn't take much. Turn towards the tire that's dropping low. And it'll fix it right up. This crack has always hated Capra width trucks. There we go. Sweet. Oh, front tire's in the air. So we're gonna turn the rear into the wall. It's gonna force that front left back down. As we move, we'll straighten the rear back up and keep going. And scoop that rear around that little knob. Oh, too much. There it is. I already knew that though, so. I was hoping it would lock and then I could just front burn to the direction I wanted to go. That was the goal there. Yeah, the whole cage is just rolled over towards the crack. That's not helping us at all. There it is. Maybe I need one of them Reefs sub 49 servos. They're tiny little guys. They have 50 ounce-inches of power. Use that as a suck down winch. Because I'm adding a winch in the front of this for looks. It's not going to be hooked up. The RC four-wheel drive winch control is just dumb that it needs a winch control. I love the Reefs stuff. You just plug it into your receiver and you're good to go. So if you're buying a winch, I strongly recommend getting Reefs. To actually do winch things. But this guy, I just want a decoration basically. Just a hood ornament. There it is. It's good for the tires, getting them scrubbed in. This sandstone tears them up pretty quick. What's funny is I've found in like super high traction rock stuff, it actually doesn't break in your tires very often because you rarely slip on that stuff. So you're not really like scrubbing in your tires, whereas the sandstone, it's abrasive and a little bit slippery. It's got good traction, but it's a little slippery. And it's just the perfect combination to smooth out those leading edges. All right guys, let's try something a little different here. Let's put the camera down as a tripod and just crawl this. And then you gotta keep the front right on the wall. There's a crack on the front left. And then you're gonna turn left a little bit to drive through the pocket. But then the rear only portion has, the overdrive tries to pull the rears into this overhang on the right rear. And so we're gonna use rear wheel drive only to drive up and over this pocket. So right here, bring it up and left, and then back to four-wheel drive. Perfect. Took a lot of the strain off the car. I'm not trying to drag that rear into the wall as hard. And just nice and easy. That's how I'd run it in a real car. Okay. Right rear's down in the hole. Again, that's to take pressure off that front right to help it climb. Then we're going to straighten up the rear. There we go. Very nice transition. And then this left wall disappears on us. And it can be a tricky little spot, man. I think the key is actually to climb that front right a little more than I normally do. And the front left's gonna fall in a second. Perfect. Little drop. Beautiful. Scale stuff, man. Except for the dog. I skipped a big full throttle wall on mousetrap this time. It's not really a point in trying to do it in this car. I have tried it off camera, it didn't work, so it's all good. I've got trucks that can do it. And mousetrap is a great test of any rig. Like, if you can drive the whole thing, you got a pretty well set up truck. What an awesome shot right there, all articulated out, driving into the wall, floating the front right. Super cool. Watching that suspension articulate around. Now I have a big scratch in my roof, and it's from this canyon right here. I fell in the other day and just drove it through sideways. Might be a little narrower now with these new wheels. I can't see where my front's going. I think I've actually missed kind of a key point here. Probably ought to try and keep that front passenger in the wall. Fusion's working hard, I can hear it. Now, tried to front burn that tire up the wall. All right, we got to try something different then. So let's try and we've got to get the front passenger up. Just the wrong width, man. This is really hard in this car. Rear's in the dirt, giving me just enough push there. Let's get it up on that rock. Don't. Scale hardware's killing me on that. There we go. Front driver's fighting its battles. Should be able to drag the rear under. Oh. Back to four wheel. Yeah, that rear is real unhappy. I've never battled this much in this area. This car is just a perfectly wrong setup for it. It's too narrow to take the high line and it's too wide to take the low line. Usually my cars end up one or the other. Here we go. That's working. And anytime the top of the tire is pushing on the ground, it's trying to pull the car the other direction. That's why it gets all bound up and weird. I think we can turn the rears back into that wall now. Let's keep the front up. The car's forward weight bias, so we can dip a rear easier than we can dip a front. Gonna have smooth sidewalls after this crack. I wish, man. I've been running a set of cut and shuts for almost 3 years now, and they just keep on going. These BFG G8s, dude, they last forever. Wow, that was a big battle there. Like, I haven't struggled on that in a long time. That was really fun to try and get it to work right. And here we are. I'd put it in front only, but the rear's just free roll, so that's not going to help us. Probably help us more to have the overdrive working. Nice. All right, guys, here's the deal. I just got a call from the wife saying I got to get home, but I want to go run cold cuts, so we're going to try and get this done real quick. My buddy Bennett, who is now 7 years old, might have just turned 8. Is he 7 or 8? I can't. I wish I knew. He was driving my Type Pro the other day through here. I showed him the line on how to bump it, and then he got in here and started trying to crawl it, and it was really showing promise. And then Bennett crawled this line with my car, which I had never done. So big props to my buddy Bennett. He's a West Desert Wheeler team driver. Again, 7 to 8 years old. I'm pretty sure he's 7. So it's cool to see that Bennett can do more with my car than I can. And then our buddy Zach from Utah County Krawler on Instagram, he got in here with his RC Speedy and crawled it as well. And I was running Trepadors. Now, I usually prefer the Krawler to the Trepador, but the Trepador has an amazing sidewall on it. And for this car, it might need it. Here. Zach was able to crawl it with his crawlers, but his car is totally different, way lighter. It's like 3 pounds lighter than this thing. I was really hoping I could crawl this on camera here. You basically drive to where the car is almost ready to flip over, and then try and steer back at the last second. But I'm really not seeing as much promise as the Trepadors were. So because I got to get going, we're going to shoot up this part. There we go. And this car gets real sketchy on this part. Nice. It stayed a little more planted than last time. that front driver to try and drag us up through. Just missed the belly on it. Up and out. Get that tire up. Come on. A little wheel speed. Sometimes that's the answer. I try to make sure it's not most of the time, but sometimes it does work. Nice. Come on. Don't be like that, car. Oh, come on. Paused for dramatic effect, I guess. Very, very cool. So guys, this is my Ty Pro chassis. You can check them out on Facebook. These things are super cool. Comes with the chassis, the links, the interior, the hood, the panels. Set up for F10s, but you can easily put them on Capras. This thing's super rad. Be sure to check out Colorado Adventure Club if you want front and rear dig too. So I will leave affiliate links down below where I can. Other brands I don't always have an affiliate to, but they're awesome companies, help support the little guys out there like myself. You can support West Desert Wheeler at westdesertwheeler.com. You can go pick up some merch. There's a link to that through my Instagram description. So be sure to follow me on Instagram and then go check out some of the shirts I have available, like my Cut and Shut logo on a shirt or a hoodie. And there's kids stuff as well. I mark down the kids stuff to absolutely zero markup. So if your little one wants a West Desert Wheeler shirt, it's as cheap as I can get it to you, because it's super rad to see the little ones out here crawling. We will see you guys in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.